Saturday, just gone 1 p.m. actually, so it's afternoon, strictly speaking. We want to be technically correct about it. And I hope this finds you all well when you watch this, either live or on replay. It's yeah, it's a gorgeous morning. The temperature I think is in the high 20s. There's very few clouds in the sky. Sounds like a Buddy Holly song, doesn't it? The sun is out, the sky is blue. I'm sure you can fill in the dots. Anyway, yeah, it's a really nice day, really nice morning, and it's really hot, really hot. So I've just come out of a store, as is my wont, and of course I was the only one unmasked. The rest of them were walking around in their masks, staying safe, confident in the knowledge that a mask will afford them a protection from a virus if it were present, which has a molecular structure which would go straight through such a mask. But hey, listen, who am I to judge these people? These people are able to convince themselves, and they've been certainly convinced by the government. So good luck to them in their masks. It must be such a lovely experience to walk around masked. Now, indoors is one thing, but outdoors is something else. So, in this stunning heat, there's loads of people walking around with their masks on. And I find that, how can I put it here on YouTube? Curious. So they're watching they've got the little masks on. They're walking around outside. There's a gentle breeze blowing through the trees, and it's a very nice day. One question: why the hell are they wearing masks outside when it's not mandated? Why do they do this? Why do people behave in this way? Why do I see people even today in all this heat, whereas you can tell it's pretty warm? Why are people driving on their own with masks on? Well, really, that's what I wanted to talk about because, of course, there is an explanation. I know I rage against it, but I'm dismissing the obvious, and that is the sizable percentage of the population like it. They like to be masked. They like to be told what to do. They like to be told you can do this, but you can't do that. You can only do this between the hours of X and Y, and you only can go to such and such a shop and not such and such a shop. You can't go to nightclub. You can't do this, and of course, you can't do many of these things, as is going to be the case, unless you are double vaccinated. So, anyway, because this is YouTube, we can't talk about the V word, can we? No, we can't. So I'll talk about other things. But yeah, it's the deep psychological reprogramming of the British people after what you would say 16 months, 17 months of the most intense propaganda. They have fallen, folks. Not you, not me. We've made it through, but they have fallen, and they are now completely subjugated into this bizarre world which the government tells us is a new normal. There's nothing normal about it. It's abnormal. But yeah, so we have that's the reason for it. It's just intense psychological reprogramming by the British government and its armed wing in the British media, which has essentially weaponized the propaganda. And all those nudge behavioral psychologists on full salary must be feeling so happy about the job that they've done because certainly no tyrant in the history of Britain could has ever brought about anything as grim as this. And then the other thing I wanted just to touch about was I've put it out on my podcast, so I hope you've subscribed to my podcast channel. I'm putting out regular content, 4 or 5 podcasts a day, little short podcasts, maybe 5 to 10 minutes maximum each, and tackling all the topics that can't be tackled here on YouTube. So if you really want to get the unexpurgated truth, the whole truth, and nothing but, that's where to go. Subscribe to my podcast channel. That's where you'll get all the juicy stuff. Here we have to have the codified stuff, really, don't we? Because as we know, hi, I'm trying to see Simon. What a life we live now. Could it get any worse? Well, Simon, there's the question. Simon asks, could things get worse? Answer, yeah. And if you want to know just exactly where things are going to go, I would direct you to Israel. Now, as I say, I've put a podcast up about it. Well, I can't really do a YouTube on it. It's impossible. But anyway, you will have seen the announcement by the Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Bennett, that it is no longer going to be feasible for 1 million people in that country not to take the you know what. And as a consequence, the coronavirus committee, I think the coronavirus cabinet, they've got one of those over in Israel, yeah, is deciding that many of their liberties are going to be taken away. And as I say, I can't talk about it here because it's YouTube. But what's interesting is that Israel intends to treat a minority the way a Jewish minority was treated not that long ago in countries like Germany and Poland. And that's what coronavirus has led us to, folks. It's very sad. It's tragically um, yeah, sorry for it. My screen is so bright I can't read your comments. I'll read them in replay. So drop your comments. I promise to read them all. I just cannot. I can't see stuff on the screen here. It's so bright. So yeah. So I was pretty. So if you want to know what's going to happen here, folks, just look to Israel. That's what's going to happen here, unless people push back so hard, relentlessly, unapologetically against their Johnson regime, because the Johnson regime ultimately is traveling in exactly the same direction as Bennett in Israel, Macron in France, Trudeau in Canada, and down in Australia, New Zealand with the clowns down there. He's traveling in exactly the same direction. This is lockstep. This is really what we face, and we've never faced it before in history. We've seen different countries go off the rails. We've seen that. That's the lesson of history. Countries convulse, demagogues rise, demagogues fall. That's how it works. But we've never had a moment where it's happening across the world at the same time. That is for me what is so frightening about this, because it's not happening accidentally. Only a very naive person would think, yeah, all these governments, yeah, they're just probably coming to all the same conclusions at the same time. And it's just happening, yeah, just kind of coincidentally. They are all working for the same objective. And the same objective we can't even talk about here on this platform of YouTube. But you know what it is? And it includes the mass you know what of the people. And anyone who stands against that and anything that stands against that will be dealt with. And that's what we're seeing. Now, we're seeing it to different degrees in different countries. But the good thing is, as I speak to you right now, I know there's a big demo starting in London. I know there's demos in France. I know there's huge demos in Australia. This is what we need. The only thing that brings us back from the precipice is ordinary people standing up and saying, you know something, I've had enough. I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not taking it anymore. Now, there are challenges with this, because whilst that visually looks good, the reality is that there are still a huge swathe of population terribly hypnotized by the government and its propaganda arms in the media. In fact, I've done again, if you subscribe to my podcast channel, you'll hear a little video I've recorded in that for later on today. But so I guess that's some of the things that are top of my mind. It's this appalling sheep-like population that depresses me. It's um, the sinister agenda of governments, including our own. But Israel seems to actually win the prize for having the most sinister government of all. Now, I've always supported Israel. People have attacked me for my support of Israel. But when I see how Israel is planning to marginalize a section of its own people, a section of the Jewish people, are going to be treated in a way that the last time they were treated like that, was in Germany in the 30s, the 40s, Poland. So That gives us cause for thought, doesn't it? Because you've got to wonder what would make Israel behave in that way. And the force that makes Israel behave in that way is the same force that makes Boris Johnson behave in the way he does, and Macron, and so on, and Biden, and all the rest of them. You see, and the way I look upon it now, and again, you'll have your own views in this, but I think this has got a dimension to it way and beyond the political. It's above and beyond that. There is almost a spiritual darkness that I think is falling over us, and people have fallen into that darkness, and many of them cannot see it. So it's important probably not to judge them too much, but they need to waken the hell up, because what scares me is not the fact that they are consigned to the Stygian darkness, it's the fact that they're going to take me and you with them, because they will not push back against the government. And if the government isn't pushed back against, we folks have ended up in this country with a sort of a tyranny, an organized tyranny. And that's kind of where the UK is at this point in 2021. And mind you, we're still in the summer. You see them when it's like this. Here's the thing. I keep saying this in my podcast. I'm going to say it here as well. In the northern hemisphere summer, when it gets hot like this, and I'm sweating, when it's like this, right? Respiratory illnesses vanish. We are told that COVID-19 is a respiratory illness. So, dot, dot, dot. This is YouTube. I can't say the things I want to say, but I'm sure you'll be able to work it out for yourself. So the idea of there being a substantive viral load in the UK in this level of heat is just, well, I can't even say. I can't even say. It's one of the reasons I hate Silicon Valley tech, by the way. I know YouTube is a lovely piece of technology, just like Twitter, just like Facebook to a degree, because they've had decades of it. They've had huge levels of funding and so on and so forth. Um, but they're honey traps. They don't provide for free speech. All I ever really want to do with you is speak honestly. I could be wrong about stuff. I get lots of stuff wrong, but I always try to be direct with you and tell you what I think. And if you might, maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't agree with me. But the reality is, on a platform like this, the idea of me having a direct free speech with you is just not, it's not plausible. It's just not possible anymore. And that tells you all you need to know about, excuse me, Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has morphed into the enemy of free speech and the guardian of tyranny. And that's why there's so much words that cannot be said. Happily, there are lots of other platforms. You know I'm on loads of things. You can find me in Gab. You can find me in GETTR. You can find my podcast. You can find me in all these platforms. So we're not reliant on these platforms. And so I really would urge every one of you again, every one of you guys again. Oh, hello. Is that Angela again? Yeah. Hi, I can't see everybody, but you'll have to pardon me. I'm blinded. I cannot see. I by the sun. I hasten to say it. Were I blinded, I wouldn't be driving. So yeah, the you can make sure you subscribe to these other platforms, because the day is coming when I will no longer be with you on YouTube. Now maybe that means not. Maybe you're okay with that. You're cool with that. But I got plenty to say. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be censored by any Silicon Valley tyranny. So just make sure you get subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't done it, do it now. The link's below. Just go and do it. That's the best thing you can do. If you want to fight back,